No, but I think people are going to be rewarded for making corporate communications more human. I think that if every journalist I'm talking to is saying, yeah, all the content I'm getting is really stale, it all sounds the same, I'm seeing a lot of M dashes, there's all these different tells, and it's all just kind of safe. I think that AI is going to make quirkiness and being very human really rewarded in terms of how that message gets picked up and how likely that message is to be greenlit.
Hmm. I constantly tell the AIs that I work with, don't be wordy. Make this thing as short as you can, right? People want to read something that's concise, or they want to see something that's concise. So I constantly do challenge them, hey, you said this, but like, I don't think that works. Or I provide more context. And it's like, oh, yeah, actually, that's right. Now that I think about it, like, that's not a good idea. Maybe this is a better idea. So I don't accept the first thing that I'm given because I see it as a planning. You have an idea and you're trying to plan for how that idea can make sense and be something that's acceptable for whatever your purpose is. And so I think accepting the first thing you're given is never a good idea. There's this guy on YouTube who talks to ChatGPT and Grok, and he asks it specific questions. He typically focuses on certain topics that I can't name here unless YouTube wants me to not be allowed to run ads. So I'm going to avoid saying what they are. And they're not bad, but YouTube is very sensitive. And what I find is he uses certain phrases in his prompting in order to get a really fantastic result. And what he says is no BS, no fluff, no headers. Give it to me straight. And when you include those things, it's usually shorter and more uh, realistic and honest.
I usually give a prompt that says 150 to 200 words because I think that also keeps the AI honest. And I will also say no M dashes, no dashes, no flowery stuff, no fluff, no adjectives. I have a whole list of things that I don't want in an email conversation anyway. And so I'm just trying to design that. I think the next step of AI is really going to be AI remembering our settings, because I think the challenge is that each time we go into a chat GPT or Claude or Grok session, it's almost tabula rasa and it forgets your preferences, it forgets your voice. And I think that's going to be almost as important as agentic.
Yeah, I think one of the issues with it is the context window. There's just a certain number of tokens that the AI can use before its information starts to break down and it starts to hallucinate. And so I think they have this multi-chat system designed so that the context window can be refreshed for every new conversation or thread that you want to have with the AI. They all do have a memory-based system for the most part. Whether or not it's good is a different conversation. I use Gemini Pro and I find that Gemini is pretty good, but I've also found that recently when I have a new chat, it doesn't really remember things. But if I ask it to pull information from the other chat history, it's sometimes able to do it and it's sometimes not. So I have a general prompt that I start with, hey, this is some information about me and or what we've talked about in previous chats. Use this as a foundation and let's go from there. And that's also pretty helpful. um, ChatGPT is better at storing memory of you. I can't stand Grok, so I don't touch it. But I used ChatGPT for a while until I started paying for Gemini. Actually, a friend of mine gave me a 3-month free trial to Gemini Pro, and so I've been using that. It's been amazing. So I'll probably start paying for it.
I wish all these services would pay us just to talk about them, right? I think that's the part of it. I love Claude for writing, and I also love Claude for writing in French. I have in laws that are French, and it really does help there. What I don't like is that it doesn't understand my voice. And even though there's a lot of published stuff that I have written, when I say write this in my voice, it has no idea what that is. And so a lot of times I find Claude to be really useful when I'm assembling content where there's a lot of quotes and I use, obviously Otter, and I say assemble this in a reasonable order based on the conversation. And it's great for that. I think ultimately AI should never be your final draft. It should be your first. And I think it can move things along much faster. But I think that people who will use it as their final draft or think, it's good enough, are always shortchanging themselves because it's not good enough. And, there's so many ways you could tell, oh, this is AI. And from a media point of view, when journalists see that and they kind of get the sense of, oh, this is AI, they hit delete because journalists are reading to delete. They get about 100 to 200 pitches each day, and they are just trying to get to the good stuff. And the good stuff is frequently the stuff that's written by humans and not AI, not yet.
I get about 10 to 15 pitches a day. 100% of them were written by AI.
How could you?
Because they will often say, I love how you had this conversation with this other person where you talked about this. And I'm like, you didn't watch my interview. There's no way you sat there and watched you went through my different interviews looking for the one that's going to help you connect me to this person.
Thanks for watching. If you liked this insight, I've handpicked another video for you right here on the screen. For more actionable strategies that get you real results, hit subscribe.